Imagine this. You're the most powerful man in the world, the Emperor of Rome. You control legions, provinces, and the fate of millions. But then you lose the one person you say you love more than anything, your wife. Now, most people grieve. They mourn. Maybe they eventually move on, but not Nero. Instead, he did something so bizarre, so disturbing, it shocked even the jaded citizens of ancient Rome. He took a teenage boy, had him surgically altered, dressed him as a woman, and married him as his new empress. This isn't fiction. This is history today. We're diving into one of the strangest, darkest chapters of the Roman Empire, the story of Emperor Nero and Sporus, a tale of obsession, power, and the terrifying lengths a ruler will go to when reality no longer suits him. Before we meet Sporus, we need to understand Nero himself. Born Lucius Domitius Ahenobarbus in 37 AD, he became emperor at just 16 years old thanks to his mother, Agrippina the Younger, who basically engineered his rise to power, and later paid for it with her life. Nero ruled from 54 to 68, a dear time of artistic indulgence, political paranoia, and brutal purges. He fancied himself a poet, singer, and performer, often scandalizing Roman elites by appearing on stage, something beneath an emperor. But beyond the theatrics, Nero was deeply unstable. He executed rivals, including his own mother and 2 wives. And it's his 3rd wife, Poppaea Sabina, whose death would trigger one of history's most macabre episodes. Poppaea Sabina wasn't just Nero's wife, she was his obsession. Beautiful, intelligent, and politically savvy, she wielded enormous influence. Ancient historians, such as Tacitus and Suetonius, claim that Nero loved her deeply, although that love was often tangled with control and volatility. In 65 AD, tragedy struck. Poppaea died possibly from complications of pregnancy, or, as some sources chillingly suggest, after Nero kicked her in a fit of rage. Whatever the cause, Nero was devastated. He gave her a lavish state funeral, had her body embalmed in spices, a rare honor, and even deified her, declaring her a goddess. But grief soon twisted into something far stranger. Somewhere in the imperial household lived a young boy named Sporus. He was likely a slave or freedman, around 15 or 16 years old, and according to Roman historians, bore a striking resemblance to Poppaea. That resemblance would seal his fate. Nero, unable to accept Poppaea's death, hatched a plan so extreme it defied even Roman norms. He ordered Sporus to undergo castration, a brutal, often fatal procedure in ancient times, so he could transform him into a woman. Then came the wedding. Yes, a wedding in a full Roman ceremony, complete with bridal veil, dowry, and public procession. Nero married Sporus. He gave him the title Empress, dressed him in imperial robes, and insisted courtiers address him as Asterisk. Augusta Asterisk, the same honorific used for Poppaea. The historian Suetonius wrote, Asterisk, he castrated the boy Sporus, and actually tried to make a woman of him, and he called him by his wife's name, Poppaea. Asterisk, even more disturbing. Nero reportedly treated Sporus with more public affection than he ever showed his real wives. Psychological diagrams, Roman masks symbolizing duality. So, what was going on in Nero's mind? Was this love? Grief? Madness? Power? Historians have debated this for centuries. One theory, Nero was trying to rewrite reality in his mind. If he couldn't have Poppaea, he'd create a perfect replica. Sporus wasn't just a substitute, he was a living doll, molded to Nero's fantasy. Another angle. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Asterisk, asterisk, as emperor. Nero believed he was above nature, morality, even gender. If he wanted a wife who looked like Poppaea and obeyed his every command, why not make one? And let's not forget, Nero had already blurred lines between performance and reality. He saw life as theater. And in this tragic drama, Sporus was cast against his will in the role of the dead empress. But here's the heartbreaking truth. Sporus had no choice. As a young enslaved person in the emperor's household, resistance meant death. His body, identity, and future were stolen not for love, but for the ego of a tyrant. Nero's reign didn't last much longer. By 68 AD, rebellions erupted across the empire. The Senate declared him a public enemy. Abandoned by his guards, Nero fled Rome, and he went with him. Even in exile, Nero clung to his fantasy. Ancient sources say Sporus remained by his side until the very end, dressed as an empress, playing his assigned role to the bitter finish. When Nero finally took his own life, famously saying, asterisk, what an artist dies in me. Asterisk, Sporus was still there. But his story didn't end there. After Nero's death, another general Nymphidius Sabinus briefly seized power, and also took Sporus as his wife. Yes, even in death, Nero's creation was treated as property. Sporus's ultimate fate, unknown. Some say he died by suicide, unable to bear further humiliation. Others believe he vanished into obscurity. Either way, his life became a footnote in the saga of a mad emperor. Modern scholars, books on Roman history, reflective imagery. So why does this story matter today? Because it's not just about one deranged emperor. It's a warning about unchecked power, the objectification of human beings, and how grief, when twisted by narcissism, can become monstrous. Nero didn't see Sporus as a person. He saw a canvas, a tool, a way to fill the void left by loss without ever confronting his own guilt or humanity. And while ancient Rome had very different views on gender, sexuality, and slavery, the core horror remains. Asterisk, asterisk, forcing someone to become what you need them to be against their will is a profound violation. Asterisk, asterisk, modern historians also caution us. Roman writers like Suetonius and Tacitus hated Nero. They exaggerated his crimes to paint him as the ultimate tyrant. So, is the Sporus story 100% accurate? Maybe not in every detail, but the fact that this story was widely believed even by Nero's contemporaries tells us something real. Asterisk, asterisk. His rule had descended into such excess and cruelty that this tale felt plausible. Asterisk, asterisk. The story of Nero and Sporus is equal parts tragic, bizarre, and cautionary. It reminds us that history isn't just dates and battles, it's about real people caught in the crossfire of power, madness, and desire. Sporus never asked for any of this, yet his name survives not as a person, but as a symbol of how far a ruler will go when empathy vanishes and ego takes over. So next time you hear about crazy Nero, remember, behind the legends, there was a boy named Sporus, whose life was stolen twice, first by violence, then by history. If you found this story as haunting as we did, hit like, subscribe, and let us know in the comments. Asterisk, asterisk, was Nero truly insane, or just the ultimate product of absolute power? Asterisk, asterisk, and don't forget history's darkest tales often hold the brightest warnings. Thanks for watching. Stay curious.